Anti-Semitic incidents are up 86% in the U.S. compared to the same time last year. That's according to the Anti-Defamation League, a civil rights organization. Some of those acts of hatred against American Jews took place right here in Rochester. A public discussion on these events and how to respond to them to create a more tolerant and accepting community is taking place with area leaders and residents. The effort is being led by the Holocaust, Genocide, and Human Rights Project out of Monroe Community College. Joining me in the studio for this conversation is Regina Fabro, Endowed Chair in Holocaust, Genocide, and Human Rights Studies at MCC. Arnie Sohinke, Executive Director of the Lewis S. Wolk JCC of Greater Rochester. And Daniela Insulaco, President of the Holocaust, Genocide, and Human Rights Project Student Group at MCC. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
What's driving religious bigotry in our country? That is one of the main questions that will be posed at the symposium on Monday. What do each of you believe is driving this religious bigotry? And Regina, I'll start with you.
Well, I think there's more division going on currently, certainly within the community. And unfortunately, once we have public speakers in the community who are comfortable making statements that allow for an opening into that kind of language, that kind of rhetoric, it becomes more commonplace. And so when we hear voices at a national level making comments that are driving a wedge, so to speak, between different religious groups, I think we feel more comfortable perhaps as communities than taking that approach also. So we're seeing some of that happening here in the United States. But I honestly think that you've seen anti-Semitism and religious bigotry taking place elsewhere in the world for quite a while now, in a way that the United States has not experienced. And so in some sense, I think there is a likelihood that we're just now experiencing what, for example, has been much more commonplace in other areas like Europe and various countries there.
Arnie, Daniela, what either of you like to add on?
So the only piece that I'd add, because I agree exactly with what you said, is I think in today's world, expectations from people are things to happen much quicker, they respond much quicker and everything else, and I think there's less filtering and there's more quicker reaction than there is in people taking the time to think, is it right, is it wrong, and how should I approach things? And people just react and respond rather than taking that time to think.
I completely agree with that. If you just, for example, go on Facebook and look at various posts, all of the responses are very reactionary. People don't take the time out to think about what they're typing. They just type away, you know, and like you said, there's just no filter anymore with people, so.
Well, in April, we had a special edition of Need to Know, and it was centered around the 30th anniversary of a WXXI documentary called Safe Haven. This told the story of the only U.S. refugee shelter in World War II located in Oswego, New York. This was for Holocaust victims, excuse me. One of my guests, Irving Shield, he was 13 years old when he got to Oswego from Nazi Europe, and he said the lessons of our past in relation to the Holocaust have been ignored by the modern world. And I wanted to know, do you agree? And if so, in what ways could that be affecting what we're seeing play out today?
Well, I know for my my own personal experiences that a lot of people my age who aren't Jewish believe that anti-Semitism is a thing of the past. And that's part of what we do as a project, is to try to educate people that it's still prevalent, you know, and it's still going on. So I think that's part of the issue, is that people think, oh, the Holocaust is just a thing of the past, and they don't try to understand its prevalence in today's society. So
I think there's always a possibility of looking at people from the past, and instead of seeing the similarities, instead of seeing the overlap, we focus on the differences that exist instead. So people miss those warning signs that really we should be paying attention to. We should be much more able to see them clearly today. But instead, we look past them. We look at the differences between different groups instead of identifying those differences, or those similarities, rather.
Well, and I think part of what you were asking is, when you look around the world and you see what's happening at different events, whether it's in Africa, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in Asia, wherever it may be, or right here in the United States, and even Canada, that no one's free from it. And I think part of it is the discussions that we have. What do we take? What are the learning opportunities that we have from what's happened in the past? And then what do we do as communities, as leaders, to take what we've learned and build on that to make something better?
And so I want to know, how is this religious intolerance of today affecting our young people and our Jewish community in Rochester? The bomb threats at the JCC, for example, how do these things tie into this younger demographic that may be different than what their parents or their grandparents experienced?
I don't know if it's different other than the way the news media handles it in what it is. It's probably a big difference. But I'll take the JCC for an example, and you look at the bomb threats. We had 2 bomb threats, and in between that, we had the storm here in Rochester, which caused outage of thousands of homes, for a long period of time. And so the first bomb threat was on Sunday. I think Monday or Tuesday was the storm, and people without power. Yet we made a decision to build community and say we're opening our doors. It's not about fear. It's not about this, but we welcome everybody from the community to come in and be part of the community here, come in, take a shower, charge your phones, whatever it may be. And I think young people saw that because people came in. They had no place to go, or they didn't have the electricity or power at home, and they were looking for a place to gather, and it became a gathering space. So despite the threat of whether you want to call it hate crimes or anti-Semitism, is that the community bonded together, and it was a positive out of something negative that happened. So I think people saw that. And yeah, well, I'll let you go, and then I'll give another example if we have time.
Well, I think that the social media that Daniela spoke about can cut both ways also. I think there's the negative aspect of it, but I also think it draws people together and makes them feel perhaps more in touch with other groups also in ways that we haven't seen before. So that, and that happens here locally, but also internationally. But I want to hear your second example.
Go ahead. Let me jump in real quick, because I want to get to something. So last spring, anti-Muslim messages were spray painted on a convenience store on University. I spent some time talking with the owner of that incident, and he explained how this wasn't an isolated one, something that his son experienced in the school environment. The Anti-Defamation League talked about how we are seeing a number of anti-Semitic bullying and vandalism increase. It has doubled in K through 12 public schools. So I know I mentioned that to say this symposium that is taking place, it is really about religious intolerance, period. All religions as well. And I want to know, how do you intend, or do you hope that this will enlighten the community, but really bring about that transition in terms of more acceptance, more tolerance?
Well, our foundation, I think, at MCC's Holocaust, Genocide, and Human Rights Project is conversation. Once you have conversation about topics, you open up that dialogue, there's more opportunity then for true education to take place. Communities don't feel isolated. People feel as though they can actually have a role in changing things in their community. And so the speakers we're bringing in for this symposium hopefully will represent a wide variety of different perspectives. We have Mayor Warren, who represents the city of Rochester and that position. We have James Kennedy, who is the acting U.S. Attorney for the District of Western New York. That also is going to be a different perspective that's going to be brought in. Hopefully people will see a variety of different responses that we can have.
All right. Well, thank you to my guests for this important discussion, and it is one that our viewers can also join. So please save the date, Monday, May 8th. That's when Monroe Community College will hold Anti-Semitism and Religious Intolerance, an educational symposium. That event begins at 7 p.m. It is free and open to the public. To learn more, go to monroecc.edu and click on upcoming events on the main page.